Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All Indie. Today, we have got some more dev talk. I'm here with Andrew from Forust, right? Is that how you pronounce the company name?
Yes, Forest.
Forest, okay. And
You got it.
today, we are talking about your game, The Company Man. How are you doing?
Doing great. It's been really stressful but really fulfilling. It's been a 3-year process, and we finally got the game out to the Steam store. We started from scratch, and so happy to see people respond to the game and really get excited about the content.
Yeah, you guys released yesterday, right? Or I
Yes.
guess midnight 27th on the 27th?
Well, it depends where you are.
Right.
For Malaysia, it was 7 p.m. I think for US, I think it was like 2 a.m. Yeah, 2 a.m. So depends where you're asking this question. Yeah.
Well, man, I mean, how does it? I guess my first question before we get into some personal details and experience or anything like that. I mean, how do you feel having released the game and getting feedback? How do you feel?
Well, we love watching people play the content. We love watching people respond to all the little details that my team has really sweated over, like the animation and how things feel frame by frame, and how does it look like when the character stops and when he jumps? Is it correct representation of his personality? And I think that was the part that felt really fulfilling. Watching people really appreciate that, because we weren't sure whether people would notice. Sometimes people just run past and they don't see it, but sometimes once in a while someone stops and it's like, wow, that's beautiful. And I think that's really fulfilling for our team, because we've just been working by ourselves, and we did a playtest on G Round as well. It's a testing platform, and we tried to fix all the issues there, which we managed to address all of them. And yeah, but it's a very challenging process of getting feedback, improving. But I think the end result is something that we're all proud of, and we can really get behind, and we know that players will enjoy.
Yeah, I would agree. I thoroughly enjoyed the couple levels that I played. Before we start talking about the game, though, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did
Okay.
you? Go ahead.
Okay. Well, my name is Andrew. I'm actually a citizen of this small country called Malaysia, and I grew up here. I think one of the things that's interesting about my story, I actually was just sharing this in another interview, how I got started in actually making games. So when I was really young, I remember when Pokemon came out, and it was still like Game Boy Color, and I couldn't afford to buy a Game Boy, so I would actually watch my friend play Pokemon, and I would have a little textbook, my school textbook, that was like just blank sheets, and I would draw with my hands all these characters. And I'll draw the environment. Then like in Pokemon, sometimes you run in a bush and then you encounter an enemy that's hidden in the bush. So basically, the back of the page would be where I reveal that, so players would like walk through this little piece of paper, and then they will turn around and see whether they ran into an enemy. And I actually sold that to my friend for like, I think like 2 ringgit, which yeah, I don't even know how to convert that to USD. Like probably like a few cents. And about 3 years later, I came back, and then I saw that book still being circulated in my primary school. Um, and I was just like stunned at the impact it had, and the joy that it brought to these little kids, which I was one at that point as well. And I just felt like video games is like the highest point of art, and it really helps bring people together, and it participates in the human imagination, and I just felt that was so powerful, and I wanted to create more experiences like that. Well, fast forward a couple of years later, I ended up going to business school, which was a completely different path. Um, I was in some accounting classes, some marketing classes, and trying to figure my way out my path into corporate life. And then I played this game by Supergiant Games. And Supergiant Games, they made this game called Bastion. I believe it was their first game as a studio.
I believe it was,
Right.
yeah. And then
Yeah. And
Transistor came next.
yeah, I basically played every single one of the games. I'm a huge fan, and when I played it, it just left such a big impression on me because the way they blended storytelling and gameplay, timing and artwork, everything was done with excellence. And they had like they didn't have a big team at that time, and it just made me feel like maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this. So that's basically how I got the initial idea about starting this company. Before I jump into, because I can talk on forever. Let me just check whether you have any other follow-up questions.
Um, I I was gonna ask you, like what were some of your first games that kind of drew you into game design?
Right. So yeah, definitely Bastion was one of them. The way they blended every element, soundtrack, game design, it was easy to understand, simple controls, but it got better as we progressed. It was very precise. The writing was excellent. The way they did narrative and played with the player interaction, that was brilliant. So that really got me into it. On top of that, I also really love this game called Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is just stunning and it's beautiful, and the combat is simple but so deep, and it's really about precision. And yeah, those were our two big inspirations for this game. Where we tried to keep the essence of what made them great in this product.
Yeah, I think you've succeeded in sort of in those inspirations. Um, I think my part of my question is the company man also has a very like old school feel to it, like a Mega
Yeah,
Man or a
yeah.
Mario. Did you guys also kind of go back to some of those old school games and look at those?
Yeah, yeah. So, just a little bit of myself. So, as a developer, I actually have zero background. So, I don't have like a programming background. I don't have a game design background. I don't have an art background. I actually went to business school. So, when I jumped into this project, there was a lot of trial and error. That's one of our core values actually as a company, which is experimentation is progress. And that's just like a nice way of trying to encourage myself and everyone on the team that if we don't get it right the first time, we can try again. And that's the spirit of creativity, and it unlocks that ability of for us to test, give ourselves permission to fail, and but with the intention of succeeding and opening up our imagination to hope for new ideas for things that we couldn't imagine before. So right now, we when I started this game, I actually had a lot of ideas on my own. I learned really quickly that some of them were not gonna work. So I actually watched tons of gameplay videos on different types of games and how they designed, and specifically 2D platformers. I think I probably watched almost every video I could find on YouTube. That's like maybe a compilation, and I watch everything either at 2x speed or I slow it down if I see something interesting. And I really try to be a student and understand why they did things. And sometimes I just try to um, design with, try to get the essence of why they tried to fix that problem that way. And then I try to design with that in mind.
Sure.
So Mega Man was definitely a big source of inspiration because it was a game that everyone in Malaysia, like that I grew up with, played that game. So when they saw this, they were like, "Oh, it's like Mega Man." That's like one of the first things people say. Yeah. So yeah, it's
So,
definitely a big source of inspiration for us.
oh, absolutely. I mean, it's
Really happy
honestly,
that you pointed that out.
yeah. I was gonna say honestly, as a player, it's well for some, and I hate to say this, but for somebody my age, it's hard not to see those kinds of older 2D platformers, like even Sonic, like there's kind of
Yeah.
although I don't know, it's a little harder to see Sonic, but maybe I'm just nostalgic. It's harder for me
That was the
not
first time I said that,
right.
yeah.
It's harder for
Yeah.
me, not to see those games in something like this. Um,
Yeah.
but what you were talking about your core values kind of brings up an interesting question. I mean, how important do you think it is to fail? And I mean, I know that sounds
Right.
a little
Yeah.
silly, but I mean, it seems to me like you really want to just you really wanted to open um
Yeah.
people's creativity and say, hey,
Yeah.
let's do it. Like whatever the case may be, let's just go for it. So, I mean, how important do you think that um, aspect played a? How important was it for this game?
That is who we are at the end of the day. You know, when I started this company for the first time, I called it Forest. So where does the name come from? It's a combination of the words for and us. So we're doing it for us, as well as this deeper idea of a forest, actual forest. And a forest starts with a seed and ends with a tree, and then it ends with another tree and another tree, and eventually a forest can survive. I was reading, okay, this is really dorky, but I was reading this book about trees called The Hidden Life of Trees. And it just had this, it was just talking about how a bunch of trees together can survive and control the weather. It can help the whole system um, thrive just because they came together. And I wanted that spirit for my studio when I started. I told everyone because we actually are in Malaysia, and in Malaysia we don't have much opportunity to get into game design or game development. There are probably about I think three companies that have actually publish their games, but then there are others that are still in development, but there are also teams about our size. You know, so for us, when we started working, it's very hard for us to find people who have actual game development experience in any field. You know, even if they just did the marketing, it was really tough to just find someone that's like in this industry here. And that's so. But the thing is, I worked at a company that was actually an outsourcing company for games. So I noticed that a lot of the AAA titles around the world were actually using Malaysian talent to develop their content. And it just struck me as we just needed opportunity. We already have the talent here. And I fought with everything I had to create this best shot. I put everything. This is our single bullet, and I gave everyone the space to experiment, and I gave everyone the space to dream. And I told them that it's okay to fail, but we're gonna do it together as a team, and we're gonna do it quickly and try to learn from it. So that's where our core value experimentation is progress comes from, because we try to do control experiments for the little things and all the quirks that can come up in game design and improve it so that the players don't have to experience that. And what happens is everyone on the team it feels free to try weird, quirky things that may not necessarily seem to work. And ended up with our game having this wild, wacky aesthetic that's really funny. The jokes are really played into with the characters. Sometimes they didn't work on the first try, so we just did it again and we tried again. And I think that process elevated us as a team to create something that we could not do on our own. So this product, this game is not something that it's not a pure creative expression of me, who's the creative director. It's actually the expression of every single person on the team uh, together, giving their input, fixing it, and then improving again and again until you see what you have on your screen, which is aesthetically astounding game with a very strong team.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's worked out. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the game now. Um,
Yeah.
I think the question that's on everybody's mind is, or at least the one that's been just driving me insane. Is this a like an example of your old corporate job, and that's like where you got the inspiration for this?
I get that question so often. So I actually was gonna jump into that story straight away at the start because I knew it was gonna come up,
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
I just want to give you a chance to ask that question. So basically, while I was in university, I was like, really debating entering corporate life. I was reading a lot of articles, finding out things about that, and at the same time, I really love this American sitcom called The Office, and it spoofs office culture just like our game. And I love that show. That show is like my favorite TV show of all time. And I've probably watched it like 8 times, like every season. And that is something that really inspired me. And the crazy thing was when I actually started working, I found out some of the characters were actually real. You know, we have people farting in the office. We have people yelling at each other. People getting burned out. But I wouldn't say that my previous workplace was that 100%. They were definitely reasonable employers, but they also had some wild, quirky characters. Not every quirky character was evil. It's just quirky, and that's just our humanity. We have different people with different backgrounds, different cultures coming together, and I think the workplace is one of those structures in society where we still get to do that. We still get to meet people that we don't necessarily would meet any other way, and I tried to show that in the game. We tried to have characters from different walks of life, and then we tried to make sure they made sense in the context of the department that they're in. So every floor in the game has a different department, like human resources, accounting, that you can find in almost every office. And we try to play up the spirit of that floor and distill it down to the pure essence of what made that floor so quirky or interesting. And on top of that, I mixed that in with all these weird characters that I found in my previous workplace, or maybe someone on my team had that idea as well.
Yeah. I can definitely tell. I can definitely see the quirkiness. So I absolutely this may seem like a silly question, but I feel like it's kind of important to ask. I love the fact that the main character's weapon is his keyboard turned into a sword. Is there a story behind that? I mean, why not his fists or an approval stamp or something like that? I mean, did it just fit or?
Well, definitely just it definitely fits because we wanted this idea of a keyboard warrior.
Oh, okay.
How we go against society and the corporate machine with our keyboard, and we thought that was just such a brilliant way to express that and manifest that. And it's also hilarious just imagining picking up your keyboard and whacking your coworkers with it. I think people just connected with that idea straight away. You get it, sometimes you do feel that way in the office, right? You just want to like, can I just take my keyboard and just, well, I shouldn't say that, but yeah, I think, but it captures an extreme expression of that feeling. And yeah, I thought people would have a really good time with that. On top of that, it worked really well when we wanted to make a projectile mechanic. We thought the idea of shooting emails just made so much sense if like he had a keyboard sword and he could use he could shoot emails out of it. And That's actually something that we really had a hard time figuring out, was making all these wild, wacky concepts make sense together in a way that's funny and people can get instantly. And we tried many iterations. We go through, we test, we show different people, friends and family, even strangers, to see whether they get the concept straight away. And this was one that really stuck. So we decided to commit fully to it, and that's what you have here.
Yeah, I think it works. I absolutely loved it. I just it's kind of one of those things that it's like, I kind of imagine maybe he would have picked up a pencil or um oh maybe he would have picked up a pencil or a stapler, or maybe it's his coffee mug or something, but like a keyboard's just one of those things that just makes sense. So, the company man being a 2D platformer. What did you what sort of features and design aspects did you guys take from some of the older games like Mega Man? And what did you or how did you improve on it?
So I think we definitely Mega Man. We definitely tried to use their idea of because we're a small team. We had to work within what we could do, and we felt like making a Metroidvania for our first effort was really difficult. But we thought that Mega Man had the right format in terms of a linear progression where you go from level one to the level six, then you do the end boss fight. And we felt that format was something that we could really play with the office. So the office space has departments. We could separate that down and distill down the ideas into each level. The level design, the way we space our combat, the way we give breaks between fights with cutscenes, we definitely got that from Mega Man as well. But the combat, we really were inspired a lot by Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight also has a character that swings with his sword. It's a very simple control, but they did it so well. Like it felt so responsive. The amount of frames for each attack. I think we even referred to how many frames Zero has in his slash in Mega Man, and we definitely look at all these things and try to get the same amount of precision, uh, as close as possible that we could produce. That people really expect from platformers, every corner. I think I don't know who invented this, but I only found out about it through Celeste, right? So Celeste has this feature called Coyote Jumping. Basically, off the ledge, if you get off the ledge for like a few seconds, you can still jump even though you're in midair. And we added that into the game, and it just fit just perfectly. And it made the game feel a lot more easier. People were missing jumps less, but they felt like they deserved to land that jump, even though they actually missed it. Just give that little breathing room so that players can really enjoy the experience of running through the floor.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than feeling like you got cheated a little bit, and things like that can really help. Uh,
There's still there's tons of details here. Like even the way we laid out the artwork, which was surprisingly a very big decision that we had to make, was like, is the player standing on top of the floor or in the middle of it? In which is correct in art perspective, but in gameplay, it's actually very hard for the player to determine where is the height of the floor. And I think in platforming, like most platformers that have this many jumps, they decided to just put it at the top of the floor, so that players would be able to be very precise with their movement. So that was a big decision for us. We actually revamped the art style from scratch just to accommodate that. I think about a year in, but it turned out being the best decision.
yeah. So speaking of artwork, how important was the animations, the art style, things like that to really, bring your game and your theme to life?
So we actually had a mentorship program with organized by MDEC, which is our Malaysian government entity that's trying to bring up the games industry in Malaysia. So we only have one, uh, well, we have a few, but we had one mentor from No Straight Roads. So his name is Wan Hasmir, and he saw my game and he told me like, Andrew, you got to care about every frame. That really makes a difference because people pay attention to those details. So that part actually, that one conversation that we had with him actually pushed us because he wanted every frame to show the personality of the character, not just the game mechanic. And once we had that conversation, we realized that's what made the characters memorable was every single movement needed to show their personality, and that took us down a long, difficult road of going through every animation, figuring out how do I get the essence of this personality, how do I get the spirit of this character. Is this enemy that's frustrated with work, or he's tired, he just wants to go home, or he's really annoyed, or like every frame must represent that so that people can look at it instantly and understand what's going on. And we did that with every character from the start. So at that point, we were like probably a year and a half in. Then we went back and we fixed all our animations again, touched it up to make sure that it could produce this quality that people can get straight away. So you can see Jim. Initially he was just like a robot, right? He was like expressionless. His movement was very like linear. And then finally, after that conversation, we went back, we revisited every player animation. How do we make this jump show that this guy is a frantic guy? How do we make this idol show that he's in a rush or he's in a hurry? And Jim is a person that is really trying to climb the corporate ladder, but he's also anxious, he's also scared, he's also nervous. And we tried to show that with every single animation that we could possibly add into the game.
Yeah, I think it shows. I think you've done a wonderful job with the animation. That's honestly, I think that's one of the first comments that I made about your game when I was doing my playthrough, was just how expressive everything and everybody was.
Yeah.
So I do have to ask, you named your main character Jim after The
Yeah.
Office, after Jim and Pam
Yeah.
from The Office.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, I love the show. I just wanted to like give tribute to something that inspired me, you know. I think art is about it really connects the human spirit, right? So, I'm inspired by them, and hopefully people will be inspired by us, and they will continue to create. And art really has art is storytelling. It's storytelling, you know, and it really brings since humans have been doing that since the beginning of time, right? Around the campfire, we tell stories to bring people together, and video games is just another expression of that, right? It's
Sure.
storytelling, and every element must tell the story. Every must have some sense of reflection of human life, and we really tried to capture that in this wild, wacky world, and fought really hard to try to make it all make sense intuitively.
Yeah. So why not
Yeah.
Michael Scott? You miss all the shots you don't take.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jim was like the representation of the everyday man, right?
Right.
That sees this crazy world around him, and then he looks at the camera and he makes this expression like, am I the only one seeing this? And that's our character, right? He's like trying to get through this crazy workplace, and like there's interns being thrown around, and yeah, that's it. We have a character that's like Dwight though, because that's also one of the characters that definitely gave me the most laughs. I think you managed to fight him just now.
Oh, was he the scary the guy like throwing around his intern?
Oh no, he's actually styled like the you know the twins.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh my
they're
gosh.
wearing this like a similar color shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it now. It's the shirt and the glasses and the whip. I get it. That's awesome. Okay, so I got some fun questions for you, and I think you've answered a few of them for me. But do you have a favorite boss in your game?
Wow. We really okay. So the boss fights for this game, we tried to get the different kinds of platforms from the floor and the different kinds of enemy abilities from the floor, and then we put it all together. And we tried to make a boss fight that requires you to gain some experience from going through the floor, and then we put it all together in the final boss fight. So this is something that I think Hollow Knight does really well, and we felt this is the best way to do it. You know, we teach people the mechanics, and then we expressed it all together in the highest form. But sometimes that created a lot of interesting problems, and we had to find interesting solutions for them, uh, we know players will enjoy. But to answer your question, my favorite boss is actually the level 6 one. That boss, we did that late in the game. It's is oh, I can't give the plot away. But
What?
basically, it's a recurring character. But what I love about that boss is how we melt the gameplay with the animation, I think we did probably our best job with that one because for me personally, I mean everyone on the team has a different boss that they really love, but that one has like some really sick animation that made the feeling of speed, even though the gameplay time is exactly the same amount of delays. It felt so fast just because the animation was like so wacky, but we did it in a way that was really simple, so that people could get it. It's really stylish. I hope you guys can check it out and yeah, really enjoy it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
What department does this boss work in?
Okay, so this boss works in the sales and legal department. It's level
Sales
6.
and legal.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to remember that. I'll try and get there here in the next couple of days.
It's the last boss fight before the final boss. Yeah.
Final boss. Okay, I'll remember that. So do you have a favorite like enemy?
Favorite enemy like that you meet across the floor?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, oh, there's this one that I really like as well. So, okay, well, I think you can probably tell from talking to me that one of my biggest things that I really love is when people make animation fit with the gameplay. So one of the characters that does that really well right now is actually this. We have this enemy that rides a deer. Okay, this is like a shout out to our Malaysian culture. We have this animal called a kancil. It's a little like deer mouse, and we have a person in the marketing floor that's riding this deer mouse, and the deer mouse gets exhausted. And she's like a concept artist for the marketing department, so she attacks you with her brush. I think that one's really funny, and we made this particular character have very unique set of decision making. So if you're a bit further away from her, she will dash towards you. She'll do a dash attack, and then if you're close enough, she'll come to you and then she'll whack you with her stick. So I thought we did a really good job with that one. It's a really fun experience, and we played around with it. In the marketing floor, there are actually portals where you can teleport between areas. So the way we played with that and the portals, I think, was really great.
That's awesome. What a cool like shout out.
Yeah, marketing is like where we play with the idea of like, okay, let's just go as crazy as we can because nothing makes sense in the world of marketing. Nobody cares about the deadlines, or we're rushing, we're working really hard. We have people drinking tea, trying to get the tea on social media. We have like people who are on, do you know, like those type of like standing chairs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we even have that. We have people who are bouncing around on what's that yoga ball? Yeah,
Oh
on the
yeah.
yoga ball. So that's like we just like play with the idea of like this very hippie kind of work culture, and yeah, and we try to express that in the marketing department. We just threw like whatever we couldn't do because we had to limit ourselves in the other department. Let's go crazy right here, and that's why marketing is actually one of my favorite departments.
That's awesome. Okay, so I think I maybe have one or two more questions for you. But you did say you had friends and family play your game. I'm
Yeah.
always curious. What did your family, significant other, what did they think of your game?
Well, okay, so Malaysia, right? There's like the only one they know in this industry. I'm the only one. So they have wild, wacky questions, and they're just stunned that we made this. Um, there's no point of reference. There's no one else that they know. So to their credit, they still believed in me and they supported me all the way. And they tried to be supportive either by sending meals to me during the pandemic or sending over a text or either just encouraging me in person. And all of them came together and contributed in some way. I did not make this game by myself. I have a community of people who came in, helped test the game, gave us feedback. They had very different feedback for all of them. Animation ideas, gameplay ideas. It's all in here. There's too many to count. Yeah, but I think recurringly, everyone's just amazed that Malaysians made this art style from scratch, and that we were able to produce this because this is not like anything that you can find here in Malaysia.
So that brings me to an interesting question. How much of this did you guys use any assets in this game?
Um, like any asset, like you mean art assets?
Yeah, like any sort of like music, or was the music all done by, you know,
Okay,
somebody in the
okay,
studio?
no, no. We have this game. Every single artwork was hand painted by our artists here in Malaysia. That was really important to me that I expressed the talent that we have here. We also have the sound design. It was done 100% by a Malaysian team, right? We recorded the voice acting with 100% Malaysian actors. We I forgot what was your other question, but basically everything that we could do, we did it by ourselves. Of course, we use Unity, which is not a Malaysian Malaysian
Right.
made engine, right? From the plugin store, we probably used Corgi as our code base. But other than that, we built everything from scratch. We had to rewrite a lot of the code to make it make sense in what we were trying to do. So this is really an expression to the highest level of what we were able to do, not just on our own, but together as a team.
Yeah. Oh, it shows. I was gonna say, I don't. I'm always curious about like how much assets game developers use because development in and of itself is very time consuming, and so it's like some people just don't have the time to draw or make music or whatever the
Yeah,
case may be. So,
yeah.
you said you were a four-person team and you did everything in house is very impressive, and I think it shows. So,
Um, yeah, I think, well, let me just make sure that's a very honest comment because I really think we really did as much as we could. Yeah, I don't think there's anything. Well, my only concern where that may not be exactly true would be like if it's the sound team and they pick the sound. But I know they record like their toilet bowl flushing, and I have no idea how they recorded the farts. I
they,
didn't ask them.
oh my
But
goodness.
yeah, but they really recorded everything with the equipment they had around the house. So yeah, this is yeah, this is
Oh,
really us doing everything from scratch.
oh man. Oh, you shouldn't have said anything. Now I'm way too curious. Oh, the sound guys went crazy.
Yeah.
That's so funny to
Yeah,
me.
I would probably ask them probably
Yeah,
when
I wouldn't. I'd just leave it. It's a great game with
I just
great
heard it, I thought
sounds.
it
And
sounds
just
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
done.
I have no idea how you recorded that, but it sounds alright.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, with that, Andrew, I think you've answered all of my questions. Do you have any shout outs or thank yous or anything like that before we end the interview?
Yeah, I just want to shout out my Forest team. We did this together, and I'm really proud of what we've made. It's an excellent product. It's an excellent representation of us, and I'm so proud of you guys and what we've achieved together.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. To everybody who is watching and or listening, this has been an interview with Andrew and his game, The Company Man. Check it out on Steam. We are recording this 5/29, and I know the game on Steam says it came out yesterday. So go check it out. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.